People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Welcome back, guys. Chuck Nasty on Fantasy Football here. It is Friday night, August 30th, and it's kind of a special day today just because it is actually my 28th birthday today. So hopefully my birthday and the fantasy draft that I have later at 9:30, hopefully the fantasy gods look down on me and are smiling when I end up picking my roster. I need some good luck this year. So just wanted to cover a couple things with you guys today. Today we're reviewing the NFC East, the changes in the past offseason, and then how they're going to impact your fantasy rosters this year. So first we're going to start with the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott is not so much a change from last year. The biggest change was that Mauri Cooper came over from the Oakland Raiders last year and had a significantly positive impact on Dak Prescott. So in the 11 games that Mauri Cooper played with Dak, Dak was on pace for 4,305 yards and 32 touchdowns. That pace equates to 19.9 fantasy points per game. Spread across the entire season would have put him in the range of that top 5 or top 7 quarterback upside. So that's pretty crazy. Like, he's currently being drafted as the 17th QB off the board, and I think people somehow forget that because he's a running quarterback, he's mobile, and sometimes he'll scramble for a couple extra yards. That floor just makes him safer to have in your fantasy football roster. I have absolutely no problem drafting him. As it goes with the Zeke contract situation, this is really the only other big piece of the Dallas Cowboys offense. So supposedly there have been trade talks. There have been a top 2 offer. I go over it a little bit more in a prior YouTube video on the Melvin Gordon, Zeke Elliott contract situation. I think that he's going to end up getting signed, but just to be safe, in that 9th, 10th round, draft Tony Pollard. Reach a little bit on him if you draft Zeke early. Draft him in the 7th, 8th round to make sure that you get him, because Zeke is crazy productive when he plays. It's hard to not draft him. I'm still pretty confident that he's going to get paid by the Cowboys, but I do not mess around with the Le'Veon Bell situation. I've never messed around with the Zeke situation. If there is contract talks in hand, the amount of money that I'm putting into a fantasy football league, I can't risk it. So I don't draft any of these guys as long as there's talks. But for those of you that are drafting Zeke, make sure you're getting Tony Pollard in the late rounds. Other than that, Mauri Cooper's had a bit of an issue with a muscle strain in his foot. Some people had said that it was plantar fasciitis. It was kind of difficult to actually figure out what was going on and whether or not his status was in question week 1. But the VP of the Dallas Cowboys, Stephen Jones, said the team would be ultra conservative with Amari, and because the foot or muscle strain in his foot impacts his ability to cut in and outer routes. Personally, that doesn't sound very good, and I'm not super enthused because I have him on some of my teams already, but it sounds like he's going to be pretty ready to go week 1, and I'm hoping he can get over that. If for some reason he's not playing week 1, you guys need to be drafting Michael Gallup in that 9th, 10th, 11th round area. He might be the only potential target that is there week 1. If there's no Zeke and there's no Amari, Gallup has this immediate plug-and-play upside. So make sure you keep your eyes open for him as a potential sleeper. Moving on to the Philadelphia Eagles. They made a couple of acquisitions this year, the primary one being Jordan Howard, but secondary brought on Desean Jackson as well. We'll talk about the running backs first. So they have a crazy backfield. They drafted Miles Sanders out of Penn State, who initially missed some OTAs. He's looked pretty good in camp, but he's kind of playing catch-up and trying to make sure that he can take that starting role. The only problem is you have Jordan Howard right behind him. There's additional mouths to feed than that. You have Corey Clement, Wendell Smallwood, and Josh Adams behind him as well. I wouldn't be surprised if any of these guys end up getting cut or traded before the beginning of the season. That seems like too many running backs to have back there. They also have Darren Sproles, who they re-signed as well. But the tough part is figuring out what the relevance is in the fantasy game to your guys' teams. If I want any piece of this backfield, I want Miles Sanders. just because he's an upside rookie that can catch passes and everything like that. But he's going to have to fight his way through a pretty deep backfield of a bunch of guys to be able to get that workload. I'm just not confident in him as opposed to some of the other rookies like David Montgomery for the Chicago Bears that has an easier path to volume and ultimately to success. They also acquired Desean Jackson this year, but recently this week he broke his finger. He's seeking a specialist currently, but that immediately bumps the value of, Nelson Aguilar, Alshon Jeffrey, and then J.J. Arcega-Whiteside as well. For me personally, if I'm going to draft any of these guys, I want to draft Alshon or I want to draft Zach Ertz. There's a ton of mouths to feed here. There's no way to say that Alshon Jeffrey has that he has a super safe workload, because with Desean Jackson in the lineup, with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, you don't really know behind Ertz and Alshon where the ball's going to go. The primary target for me in the passing game for Philly is Zach Ertz, and secondary to that is Alshon Jeffrey. But even Alshon, I don't feel super great about him as a wide receiver 1 or 2 for me. I would much rather have him as that upside wide receiver 3 guy if you construct your roster correctly and you have a couple of safe volume-based guys in front of him, like the Keenan Allens of the world. Other than that, there's not too much going on in Philly, but I do think they have a chance to be a contender for the Super Bowl. I'm actually going to Vegas next week, and I'm going to put some Super Bowl futures down on a couple of teams. This might be one where if they can get out of that NFC East and into the playoffs, there's definitely a chance that Wentz, as long as he stays healthy, and some of these other guys, having Dallas Goedert, who's arguably one of the best up-and-coming tight ends in the National Football League, they have a pretty good squad. So might put some money down on some odds. We'll see. In addition to the Eagles and the Cowboys, we've got the Washington Redskins. Now, this one's a little bit more interesting because there's not a whole lot of change besides the fact that they drafted Dwayne Haskins out of Ohio State, and then additionally they traded for Case Keenum. But they don't really have any receivers that are going to be fantasy relevant. They have Darius Geis, who is currently going in the 6th and 7th round as the running back 31 off the board. I see a huge problem with this. There has been this hype train around Darius Geis for like the past 2 years, and this guy has had 5 knee surgeries and has not shown us anything in the NFL yet. I'm not spending 6th or 7th round draft capital on him, and I really think that Adrian Peterson, who is being drafted, 2 or 3 rounds later, currently the running back 44 off the board, in the 11th round is going to be the starting running back there. If I want any piece of the Redskins, I don't. I want Adrian Peterson. I don't want Trey Quinn unless it's a dynasty league. I don't want, Jordan Reed, who just got another concussion. I don't want Josh Doxson because he's proven that he's just not a competent receiver in the NFL. The only pieces that I would consider here would be Adrian Peterson, potentially Chris Thompson late in a PPR format, and hope that he goes off like he did a couple years ago. And then Jordan Reed if he can somehow stay healthy, because Case Keenum, who's slated to start week 1, has to throw to somebody. And I would expect Reed to see 6 to 8 targets a game. But for him to have his 6th concussion already preseason, it's not even week 1 yet, it's just not a good situation. I'm pretty much staying away from the Washington Redskins unless I can get Adrian Peterson in the 11th or 12th round and I need a running back. In addition to the Skins, the Eagles, and the Cowboys, we have the New York Giants in that division. This is probably one of the more interesting teams that I've seen because people were very, very critical of the draft pick on Daniel Jones in the preseason. I was included in that. I thought they were crazy for going the way that they went, but they maybe saw something in him that allows him to mesh with that offense more. I'm not sure. But in the preseason, Daniel Jones had a 140.6 quarterback rating, which was like the highest across all metrics in preseason quarterback play. I understand it's preseason. It doesn't really matter. I get it. I just don't think that Eli, who has had 50 or 55 QBR in the past year or 2 years and he throws these duck balls that float up in the air and are, aren't super accurate. Unless something gets changed with that, it's going to be a 3 or 4 week thing, and then he's going to get benched and Daniel Jones is going to come in. Really, as far as fantasy draft implications go for you guys, Saquon's almost the only option. He's currently being drafted number 1 overall for good reason. He's a crazy good running back. He has a ton of upside. He's got safe workload. He can catch passes. He's just a great dynasty asset to you. Great in redraft leagues and everything like that too. I mean, there's nobody that's safer in that spot than number 1 for him. But the other option would potentially be somebody in the receiving game. They made a change at receiver and added Golden Tate from the Detroit Lions. Now he's suspended for the first 4 games due to some failed fertility test or something along those lines. So he's not going to play. Sterling Shepard fractured his thumb in the preseason, but the reports of beat writers are saying that he's going to be good to go for week 1. And the crazy part about Shepard, there's a guy named Matt Harmon who does an article and analysis thing called Reception Perception. Okay, and Sterling Shepard has an 82.8% success rate versus man coverage, an 80.2% success rate versus zone coverage, and a 91.1% success rate versus press coverage. So he's overall a good route runner. He's a good receiver. And against those various coverages, he's just a productive guy. He just has to stay healthy. He's currently being drafted off the board as a wide receiver 39 in the 9th round. And I don't have any problem taking him at that spot. I think that he's going to be great in PPR formats. They're going to have to throw to somebody, whether it's him or it's Evan Ingram. Both of those guys are going to see their fair share of passes this year. I like Evan Ingram a lot. He's currently off the board as the 5th tight end at pick 60 in the 6th round. The only question is, how does the potential future of the Giants with Daniel Jones starting bode for the receivers? And as it relates to Sterling Shepard, you got to think that it would be, a slight decrease. He doesn't have any rapport with them. They're pretty much new to working together. But Evan Ingram, it might actually be a positive. Rookie quarterbacks, when they're under pressure and they're being blitzed, they tend to use the tight ends as a safety valve more than other positions on the field. So I don't see any problem, especially if the quality of targets are better than Eli Manning is throwing, that when Daniel Jones gets out there, the value of Evan Ingram actually goes up. It's just going to be a matter of when are they actually going to play him. I'm not entirely sure. I'm really only willing to take Saquon or Evan Ingram in this offense if I need a receiver late or I'm putting somebody on my bench potentially for some depth at wide receiver, and I get to that 9th round and Sterling Shepard's hanging out there. I'm definitely going to take him. He's better than a lot of the other options at that spot. I don't have any problems with that, but I just want to be careful about how much I invest in my fantasy roster construction, team makeup in the New York Giants, because I just don't think they're going to be very good this year. That's all we've got for today, guys. If you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that sub button to get notifications when new videos are posted that could help you win your league. I'll be dropping different hints as far as specific tips, draft strategies, and I maybe even stream a couple of my actual drafts on the YouTube page. But ultimately, as I've told you guys before, I want you guys to win your leagues. I want you guys to make money. I want to give you tips that help you separate from the rest of the pack, and they are going to be here on this channel. So make sure you hit that sub button, drop a comment and a like if the video was constructive to you, if there's anything else you want to see me cover, or if you have any questions on any of the divisional pairings or rosters that I discuss in here. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
Oh, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.